what's up you guys? Welcome back to Leah's vlog. I'm so glad that you have tuned in for yet another video. If you are new, I am so glad that you have decided to tune into my channel. If you can, hit the subscribe button. I would love for you to be a part of this community. I created this channel specifically for new nurses, but it's for all nurses. I just want to highlight my journey as a nurse and what I learned, and I want to share everything I learned with you all to help you grow and become a better nurse. So let's get into the video. So on today's video, I just simply want to talk about me floating. The other day, I floated to the PCU, and this is nothing new. If you are a current subscriber and you have watched most of my videos, you already know that I recently transferred to a med-surg floor. And in between transferring to a med-surg floor, I used to be an orthopedic nurse for about 2 years. And because of COVID, because they let go of kind of the elective surgeries, I was floating literally like once or twice a week. So it kind of just pushed me into being a float nurse. I consider myself a float nurse, and I was terrified. Like literally, I think I caught my husband one time crying, like, I can't go to this floor, I don't know what to do. But it's weird, like even now I look back and I'm like, man, I know so much more than what I thought I knew back then, and I still do. So yeah, it's been a learning experience, and it has propelled my nursing confidence and floating. And so I just want to share this experience. So the other day, again, I floated to a new floor, and because I am PRN, I pick up when I want. And so most of the time what happens is, I guess the supervisor feels like, hey, you worked 8 hours, we're going to float you to where we need you so we won't disturb your floor and kind of whatever. So anyways, I had a float there. And I was kind of like shocked because my floor is really heavy. They need a lot of nurses. So I was like, oh, I don't want to go. And even being a nurse for 2 years, like sometimes it still kind of knocks me out of my groove because I know how my current floor is. I know what needs to be done. I know where all the meds are. So just kind of like, okay, I have to start all over again for a whole shift. Show you some tips just to help you get through when you're floating, specifically as a new nurse, that I actually implement for myself. And these tips have been very helpful from the moment that I did my first float until now. I actually go through these steps in my head, and it helps me tremendously. So the first tip is just to remain calm. As I already stated when I got the news that I was floating, sometimes it just gets to me. It's like, oh my gosh, why? Why are you taking me off my unit? So just stay calm. Do not freak out. Do not think somebody's going to die or you're going to do some type of medication error because you don't know anything. Do not. Just stay calm and relax. And the next thing is to just go to the unit with a positive attitude. I'm trying to tell you, having a positive attitude really does just kind of just set the atmosphere for your day, for your coworkers, for your patients, for yourself, and whoever you're working with. Go down with a smile and just proclaim, if you're a Christian, that this is going to be a great day as a nurse, and I'm going to impact my patients. Like seriously, these are the first 2 steps that I kind of like implement into whenever I float, and it really does help me. The next thing is that when you get to the unit, you basically have to already have this little self-talk with yourself and have confidence. Like, look, I know what I'm doing. I may not know everything to do on this floor, but as a nurse, I know what to do in order to take care of my patients. So go down there with some confidence. I am an RN, I am a BSN, whatever credentials you have, and know that you are good enough to be there. You know whatever you need to know in order to be there. So just go down there with confidence. And when you get to the floor, like even if someone doesn't come up to you and kind of say, hey, welcome to the unit, this is where everything is, find the charge nurse, find one person. I always say that even if a floor is kind of like, I don't know the right word to say, but a little bit mean and they're not welcoming, there's always just one person who is a little bit more welcoming than the rest. So if someone does appear to be that person, if the charge nurse is not, reach out to them and say, hey, I'm new to the floor. I floated from another floor. I'm not sure where the Pyxis is. Ask them where the main things are, where the Pyxis, where your printers are, how they kind of, distribute their routes and their phones, where the phone lists are, anything you need to know in order to get through your day as a nurse. Ask them where it is, and it would help you kind of throughout your day in order to make sure your day is as smooth as possible. The next thing is to ask as many questions as possible. Like seriously, you can ask questions all the way from 7 o'clock a.m. to 7:30 p.m. or whatever kind of shifts you work. Do not be ashamed to ask questions. No question is a dumb question. A lot of times I used to feel like that in the beginning, like, man, I'm a nurse, I should know this or whatever, and if I ask this, they're going to think that I shouldn't be here. You have already passed the NCLEX. You're a nurse. They're floated you there because you are a nurse and they need your help. So if you don't know something, ask a question. Also, just ask questions and do not be ashamed of that. The next thing is that when you are floating to another floor, sometimes, again, I used to be an orthopedic nurse, so there are always like standing orders for every orthopedic nurse, and so these are common things that are for that floor. And then there are common charting things we had to do kind of for an orthopedic floor. So since I was an orthopedic nurse, there were standing orders for, like, basically their if there were a hip, kind of their weight bearing precautions and things of that sort, or how they should be doing some exercises if they were in the bed, and them having incentive spirometers and how often and what their goal rate was for that. And then like specific charting, going in and monitoring peripheral pulses, like radial pulses and pedal pulses, things of that sort. So when you float to a different floor, there's also the same things that are there. For instance, if you're going to a cardiology floor, a general med-surg floor, or orthopedic floor, or like me, I was going to the PCU, there are standing orders that should be implemented. And if you get there and you see that when you go to your orders, basically, if you're unsure of how to execute or implement those orders, ask someone, say, hey, I'm new. What do you normally do and how often do you chart? Because if they don't tell you, don't assume that because they didn't tell you that you don't have to do it. Push come to shove, the doctor's going to ask, say, hey, Leah, did you do such and such? You can't say, well, I didn't know. You have to go in and basically ask someone, say, hey, what is the common charting that's done here? How often should I do it? So that you can make sure you're doing everything you can do during that shift. For instance, I had floated to the PCU. I think I had been a nurse for like 12 months and they floated me to the PCU, and I did a one-on-one. And it was a great shift because it was a nurse there, a charge nurse, who was very helpful. And she came to me like before the end of the shift, and she's like, hey, we actually write out our handoff sheet. And she told me where to put it in the Epic. And I had no idea, because from an ortho floor, like, we don't do such things. We just do the handoff report and that is it. So she told me that, and I actually ingrained that into my head. And so I knew once I went into the PCU floor this time, I knew that I had to do it. And so I already had, the knowledge of that. But then again, I still asked, what else needed to be done. So make sure you know what important charting that needs to be charted in the system, and the orders and how they implement that. The next thing is just to speak up. In any unit or anywhere you go, you have to have confidence and know that you are a nurse, right? And you may not know everything, but things you don't know or the things you're unsure about, do not just assume that, hey, I'm supposed to know this, so I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm just going to shut up and do my work and, do the best that I can. No, if you don't know something, if you need help, if there isn't, even if there's a procedure that you should have already knew, you should know how to do, like a Foley or something. Sometimes you forget things. You're human. Do not feel bad because you do not know something, but ask questions. So speak up. Tell someone, hey, I'm drowning. There's a little bit much on my plate. I need some help. Because a lot of times, the charge nurse is not going to come to you and ask you if you need help. You have to go to someone and tell them, hey, I need help. Can you help me? I'm unsure. I'm confused. Anything. Just speak up and don't be afraid to do that. The last and final thing, man, is to count this as a learning experience. I can only say, and I'm being very transparent, I basically used to pray that I didn't float. I used to pray that I would not float to another floor because I just didn't want to be challenged. I didn't want to be overwhelmed. I didn't want to be confused. I didn't want to be learning new people and new things. I just wanted to stay in my little bubble so that I wouldn't grow. And I didn't realize that I was actually hindering my growth as a nurse. So I just want you to know that when you float to a new floor, or you're going to a different area, or doing something new outside of your comfort zone, you are actually helping yourself. And if you don't push yourself in these uncomfortable positions, you're not going to grow. And some people don't want to grow, but I feel like, you should want to grow. You should want to be the best nurse that you can be. So again, go there with a positive attitude, speak up, ask questions, ask about specific charting, and just go there and count this all as a learning experience, because in the end, it is growing you. You never know that where you're floating currently or where you're going to go, you may wind up transferring there in a couple years. So, hey, deposit all the information into your wealth of knowledge, to keep it there, write it down in a little book if you have a book that you write down things in, and just keep that knowledge and know that it has grown you as a nurse. I don't know where you are in your work week, if you're starting your work week or you're ending, but I just hope that you're having a great week. Remind yourself that you are a nurse, you're saving lives. So go in with a positive attitude and try to be the best nurse that you can be. And I hope you all have a good week.